The cameras were rolling on what appeared to be another heartwarming Family Feud taping when 9-year-old Tyler Johnson walked onto the stage holding his father Marcus's hand. But there was something extraordinary about this boy's quiet maturity that would soon have Steve Harvey kneeling in amazement and the entire studio witnessing one of the most powerful displays of childhood heroism ever captured on television. It was a Friday afternoon at the Family Feud studios in Atlanta. Steve Harvey was in his element, that navy suit perfectly pressed, his energy filling the room with the warmth that had made him America's beloved host. The Johnson family from Charlotte, North Carolina was competing against the Rodriguez family from Phoenix, and everything seemed set for another entertaining show. But Tyler Johnson wasn't really there to play games. He stood at the family podium with the serious demeanor of someone far older than his 9 years, his small hands gripping the edge as he watched every question with intense focus. When Steve introduced the family during the opening segment, Tyler had answered every question with remarkable poise for a child his age. "So, Tyler," Steve had said during introductions, kneeling down to the boy's level as he always did with younger contestants, "what grade are you in, buddy?" "Third grade," Tyler had replied, his voice clear and confident. "But I'm reading at a 5th grade level." "5th grade? That's impressive, man. What do you want to be when you grow up?" Tyler had paused, looking directly into Steve's eyes with an intensity that caught the host off guard. "I want to help sick kids," he said simply. The audience had let out a collective "aw," but Steve noticed something deeper in Tyler's response. It wasn't the casual answer of a child who'd watched too many medical shows. It carried the weight of personal experience. The game progressed normally for the first 2 rounds. The Johnson family was doing well, and Tyler surprised everyone by buzzing in with correct answers that showed wisdom beyond his years. But it was during the 3rd round, when the category was things that make someone a hero, that Tyler's story began to unfold. Steve asked the question, "Name something a hero might give up to help someone else." It was Tyler's father Marcus's turn. But before Marcus could answer, Tyler tugged on his sleeve and whispered something. Marcus looked down at his son, his eyes filling with pride and something else, a deep, profound love mixed with concern. "Tyler wants to answer this one," Marcus said to Steve, his voice thick with emotion. Steve looked at Tyler, sensing this was more than just a child wanting to participate. "All right, Tyler. What does a hero give up to help someone else?" Tyler stepped forward to the microphone, and when he spoke, his voice carried a certainty that silenced the entire studio. "Their own body parts." The studio fell completely quiet. This wasn't a typical answer from a 9-year-old. Steve's expression shifted from entertainer to counselor as he approached Tyler. "Tyler, that's a very specific answer. Can you tell me why you said that?" Tyler looked up at Steve, and for the first time since the cameras started rolling, his carefully maintained composure began to show cracks. "Because sometimes that's what you have to do to save someone you love." Steve's hand moved into his protective gesture, palm forward, fingers extended, as he sensed they were approaching something profound. "Tyler, have you had to give up a body part to help someone?" "Yes, sir." "What did you give up?" "My bone marrow, to save my little brother Lily." The studio erupted in gasps. Marcus was crying now, openly and without shame. But Steve Harvey was just getting started in understanding the magnitude of what this 9-year-old boy had done. But what Steve discovered next would reveal that Tyler's sacrifice was even more extraordinary than anyone imagined. Steve knelt down to Tyler's level, his voice dropping to that intimate tone that transformed entertainment into something sacred. "Tyler, how old is your brother Lily?" "He's 6 now. But he was 4 when he got sick." "And how old were you when you gave him your bone marrow?" 7. "But I turned 8 right after the surgery." Steve's mouth fell open slightly. "Tyler, you were 7 years old when you underwent surgery to save your brother's life." Tyler nodded as if this was the most natural thing in the world. "Can you tell me about Lily's sickness?" "He has leukemia," Tyler said matter-of-factly. "That's blood cancer. It makes your body not work right and you get really tired and sick all the time." Steve looked at Marcus, who was barely holding himself together. "Marcus, how did you and your family handle this situation?" Marcus took a deep breath before speaking. "Steve, When Lily was diagnosed, we were told he needed a bone marrow transplant to survive. We tested everyone in the family, and Tyler was the only match. The only match? The only match. The doctors explained what the procedure would involve, and Tyler didn't hesitate for a second. Steve turned back to Tyler. Tyler, did the doctors explain to you what bone marrow donation means? They said they would take some of my bone marrow with a big needle, and it would help Lily's body make healthy blood again. They said it might hurt, but Lily needed it to live. And you said yes immediately. Of course, Tyler replied, looking at Steve as if the question was silly. He's my little brother. That's what big brothers do. The audience was completely silent, absorbing the profound simplicity of Tyler's explanation. Steve stood up slowly, walked to the production team, and made a decision that would honor not just Tyler, but every child who had ever shown courage beyond their years. "Ladies and gentlemen," Steve announced, his voice carrying a gravity that transformed the entertainment space into something sacred. "I need you to understand what we just heard. Tyler Johnson, at 7 years old, major surgery to donate bone marrow to save his baby brother's life. He did this knowing it would hurt, knowing it was scary, because that's what love looks like." Steve began removing his navy suit jacket, walking back toward Tyler as he spoke. "This jacket has been with me through thousands of shows, but it's never met anyone who deserved it more than a boy who literally laid part of himself to save his brother." As Steve draped the jacket around Tyler's small shoulders, it hung past his knees like a superhero cape. Tyler looked up at Steve with tears in his eyes. "Tyler," Steve said, his own voice breaking, "you are the youngest hero I've ever met. Do you know what you did? You saved a life. You gave your brother the chance to grow up, to go to school, to have a family of his own someday." "Is Lily okay now?" Tyler asked quietly. Marcus stepped forward, his voice filled with overwhelming gratitude. "Tyler, Lily is completely healthy now. The doctors say he's in full remission. Your bone marrow saved his life." That's when Tyler finally broke down, not from sadness but from relief and joy. Steve pulled him into an embrace that lasted several minutes while the audience gave them a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. But Steve wasn't finished honoring this remarkable family. "Tyler," Steve said, "I want to call someone who understands what you did." Steve pulled out his phone and dialed a number he had quickly researched during the commercial break. "Children's Hospital of Philadelphia? This is Steve Harvey from Family Feud. I need to speak with someone about bone marrow donation, specifically about honoring a 9-year-old donor." Within minutes, Dr. Sarah Chen, one of the country's leading pediatric oncologists, was on speakerphone. "Tyler," came Dr. Chen's voice through the studio speakers. "Tyler, this is Dr. Chen. I work with children who have leukemia, just like your brother Lily. Tyler, what you did is extraordinary. Most adults are afraid to donate bone marrow, but you did it at 7 years old to save your brother." Tyler listened intently as Dr. Chen continued. "Tyler, because of brave kids like you, thousands of children get to live. You're not just Lily's hero, you're a hero to every family dealing with childhood cancer." The episode that aired became one of the most shared Family Feud moments in the show's history. But more importantly, it sparked a national conversation about childhood bone marrow donation and sibling love that transcends age. The National Marrow Donor Program reported a 400% increase in registration after Tyler's story aired. Tyler was invited to speak at pediatric cancer awareness events, where he consistently delivered the same simple message. If someone you love needs help, you help them. That's what family means. 3 months later, Steve Harvey received a letter written in Tyler's careful handwriting. "Dear Mr. Steve, thank you for the jacket. I wear it to the hospital when I visit other kids like Lily. They think it's cool that I met you, but I tell them the real cool thing is helping people. Your friend, Tyler." This letter inspired Steve to establish the Tyler Johnson Young Heroes Initiative through his foundation, dedicated to supporting young bone marrow donors and educating families about pediatric cancer. Lily Johnson, now a healthy 8-year-old, often introduces his big brother by saying, "This is Tyler. He's my hero and he saved my life." Tyler always responds the same way. "I'm not a hero, I'm just a big brother." Steve Harvey frequently tells interviewers that Tyler Johnson taught him the difference between childhood innocence and childhood wisdom. Tyler wasn't innocent about what bone marrow donation meant, Steve explains. He was wise enough to know that love sometimes requires sacrifice, and brave enough to make that sacrifice without hesitation. The jacket Steve gave Tyler that day hangs in Tyler's bedroom. But more importantly, it represents something bigger. The idea that heroes aren't defined by age or size, but by their willingness to love someone else more than they love their own comfort. Today, Tyler is 11 years old and still Lily's biggest protector. When asked about his bone marrow donation, he always says the same thing. "It didn't make me special. Love makes everyone special. I just got to show mine in a different way." Sometimes the greatest heroes aren't wearing capes or flying through the sky. They're 9-year-old boys who understand that love means putting someone else's life before your own comfort, and that the most powerful superpower of all is simply being willing to help when help is needed. The story of Tyler and Lily Johnson continues to inspire families around the world. At their home in Charlotte, the brothers remain inseparable. Lily, now fully recovered and thriving in 2nd grade, shows off Tyler's jacket to friends and tells them about the day his big brother became famous for saving his life. Tyler, meanwhile, has become a sought-after speaker at children's hospitals, where he helps other young patients understand that medical procedures, while scary, can be acts of love. The Johnson family's experience transformed not just their own lives but countless others. Marcus Johnson often reflects on that day at Family Feud, saying it taught him that children are capable of extraordinary courage when motivated by love. Tyler didn't see himself as making a sacrifice, Marcus explains. He saw himself as helping his brother. That's the purest kind of heroism. Dr. Sarah Chen, who spoke to Tyler during that memorable phone call, later invited him to be the honorary patient advocate at her hospital. Tyler accepted on one condition: that Lily could come with him to show other children that recovery is possible. Together, the brothers visit pediatric cancer wards, Tyler sharing his story and Lily demonstrating the successful outcome. Steve Harvey's foundation continues to support the Tyler Johnson Young Heroes Initiative, which has now expanded to include educational programs in schools nationwide. The program teaches children about the importance of helping others and celebrates young people who show courage in the face of adversity. The original Family Feud episode remains one of the most requested reruns in the show's history. Viewers frequently write to the show asking about Tyler and Lily, and Steve always responds with updates about the boys' continued success and their ongoing advocacy work. As Tyler approaches his teenage years, he maintains the same humble perspective that made him a hero at 7 years old. When asked about his future plans, he says simply, "I want to keep helping people. That's what makes life meaningful." Lily, energetic and healthy, dreams of becoming a doctor himself, inspired by the medical professionals who helped save his life and by his brother's example of selfless service. The impact of Tyler's story extends far beyond their family. Medical professionals across the country have reported increased willingness among families to consider bone marrow donation after learning about Tyler's experience. The brothers have become the unofficial mascots of pediatric cancer research, with their story featured in medical journals and educational materials. Steve Harvey often reflects on how that single day of taping changed his perspective on what television could accomplish. "We thought we were just making a game show," he says. "But Tyler showed us that sometimes the most important moments happen when real life intersects with entertainment. That boy taught all of us what courage looks like." The jacket ceremony has become a signature moment that Steve references whenever he meets families facing medical challenges. He tells them about Tyler and Lily, about love conquering fear, and about the extraordinary capacity children have for heroism when someone they love needs help. In Charlotte, the Johnson family continues their normal life, but with an awareness of how precious health and family bonds truly are. Tyler still helps Lily with homework, still protects him on the playground, and still considers himself simply a big brother who did what big brothers do. Their story proves that heroes aren't born, they're made in moments when love demands action, when children rise to meet challenges that would intimidate adults, and when families discover that their greatest strength comes not from what they have, but from what they're willing to give. The bond between Tyler and Lily remains unbreakable, strengthened by the knowledge that their connection runs deeper than blood. It runs through shared bone marrow, mutual sacrifice, and the understanding that love conquers everything.